So, welcome to the Sega Does Podcast, episode 41. Woo. I am Sam, the Pixel Dude, and joining me virtually to my left, as always, is Dylan Cornelius. How are we doing, Dylan?
Good. I've graduated. I'm no longer the Dylan the.
No.
That was many moons ago. But yes, I'm good. I'm glad to have my full name. And how are you? How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. I'm diving back into the world of Sega, so things can only be good, right?
That's the hope.
That is the hope.
That's the hope.
So, today we have 6 games.
Six games.
6 games today. We have Zoom, Dead Angel, Dynamite Ducks, Sorcerian?
Sorcerian? Yeah.
Yeah, one of those kind of games. We have Super Real Basketball, or Pat Riley Basketball, if you're from the Americas. And my new obsession, the New Zealand story.
Saving the best for last. Yes.
Yes. But first, I'm going to have to say, come on, boy, because we're playing Zoom. Playing Zoom. So Zoom, Genesis or Mega Drive, 1990. It's a game, all right, and it's a puzzle game, kind of. It's kind of a puzzle / Pac-Man / maze / outer space trippy balls kind of game. It's interesting, but the first thing I want to talk about is what is this character that you're playing, because I couldn't figure him out.
Well, in the Japanese, if you look at the Japanese box art, he kinda just looks like an alien, right? Like
yeah.
Kinda, okay. Then you hop on over to the American box art.
Yes.
And they just went with, demonic nightmare, horrible. I mean, he looks evil. Like, you look at him, he's got this the brows and the smile.
But he looks like 5 characters smashed together.
He's got
Mario's shoes. He's got a green Sonic's arms.
Yeah.
He's got Mickey Mouse's gloves.
Yeah.
He's got some weird 90s cartoon eyes. He's got Garfield ears. He's like, what is he?
And the tail. What is that tail?
Oh, the tail. I forgot about the tail. But is he... Here's a question. Is he Zoom?
So, no.
Right.
He is actually known as Mr. Smart.
Oh, okay.
I don't know why. I don't know why that's his name. And I also don't know... I should have done more research for this, But I believe that...
Maybe you did once upon a time.
Maybe I did once upon a time.
Yeah.
But I don't think so. Because I really didn't like this character and didn't want to interact with him more than I had to. But Mr. Smart is what he's known as in the American release. So
right.
My guess is he was probably known as something else elsewhere.
Okay.
But yes, he does have a name. He's kind of like Cubert's cousin or something.
Yeah, like, Cubert's hillbilly cousin.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So what do you do in this game?
Okay, so what are you doing? What you do is it's kind of hard to explain. Obviously, we'd encourage everybody to go to SegaDoes.com, and with the new flashy SegaDoes.com, you can just type in the game and pow, up it comes. It's really useful, especially when you're doing a podcast about it. And I encourage everyone to go there. Go to Zoom, check out the images, because they'll be a lot easier to figure this out. But basically, in Zoom, you navigate around these pseudo 3D like tile sets, should we call them?
Yeah.
And it's like a grid system on the ground. You can see the whole grid system in one shot, kind of like Pac-Man. If you imagine Pac-Man, but instead of like eating the pellets, you have to go over the lines on this grid, and when you complete a box or a section in the line, you get points. And the idea is you go over all the lines on the grid, and once you've done that, then you complete the level. I liked that aspect of the game. I thought that was pretty interesting. What did you think?
Me too.
I'd never seen a puzzle game quite like this. Actually, I didn't know if it was based on anything that was around. I don't think it was.
No, I liked it too. The character I could have done without, but the actual like kind of skating around the tiles and trying to fill them in while avoiding the many weird enemies. I enjoyed that part of it, and I thought it was a nice, if not really strange, addition to the early Genesis library. It's not what I imagine most kids or probably older people playing the Genesis would have wanted.
No,
but at that time, but I think it's a nice break from shoot 'em up after shoot 'em up after, you know. Yeah, I actually quite enjoyed this game. I acknowledge that it's there's not really much to it. It's just the same thing over and over again. But but it's challenging enough that you probably won't, you know, beat it in one go, and you can get better at it. You know, there's kind of an organic growth that will occur if you stick with it. I think there's like 30 something, 36 levels.
36 levels. That's I think I didn't even get halfway through them.
No, me neither.
No way. It's pretty difficult. Like I say, you can skate around the area. One thing you learn rather quickly is if you can jump across paths and certain things like that, and also jump over enemies to avoid them. You also have a kind of attack, but I quite like the gameplay limitation of the attack where you can only actually shoot behind you.
Yeah, that was neat.
Yeah, that was kind of cool. So you just couldn't like roam around, and if you encountered an enemy, press attack and he'd disappear. You could only attack the enemy if he was behind you, which means you had to like strategize how you were jumping around them, so and stuff like that. But the most iconic thing about this game is the noise the alien, Mr. Smart, he doesn't sound very smart, makes every time he completes a square, which is, and I'll put it in here, come on boy.
Come on boy.
Yeah, I kind of, I don't know how you felt about it, but even playing it for when I did, I remember I heard it, thought it was hilarious, and then, of course, it keeps going, and then you're like, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
And then it circled around again. I'm like, okay, that's great. Like, it
come on,
so
boy.
I went full circle to the point where I think it's just fantastic that it repeats all the time.
It went full Poochie on you, did it? It went
full Poochie.
Never go full Poochie. Never.
Yeah.
So I actually quite enjoyed the game, although I'm not a big puzzle game fan. If you've listened to the podcast before, you'll understand. But actually, this had a lot of different aspects to it that I quite enjoyed. And you gave it a B, which I kind of agree with. It's interesting.
It's interesting. You know, people that might see the B as a pretty high score, but you have to remember this is an early Genesis or Mega Drive game. Like, this isn't... I'm not comparing this to, you know, Sonic 3 and Knuckles here. We're comparing it to stuff that was available at the time.
Yeah.
And this was a very distinct addition. I'm actually, if I'm honest, kind of surprised it was brought to the States.
Right.
It very much feels... Well, it was also on Amiga, so it wouldn't surprise me if this is a European game. Originally, because it kind of has that unique feel.
Well, we
to
do
it.
like an isometric view, don't we? Back in the 90s, especially on the Amiga. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not sure what it was with just very bizarre characters.
Oh, we can't design the characters to save our lives.
Yeah,
we can't.
Yeah.
We can, we can take over countries. We can write comedy. We can build ships. We can't design cartoon characters.
Except for Sooty and Sweep, I will.
Well, they're not cartoon characters.
That's true. They're puppets, but still fantastic.
Sooty and Sweep, and one of them doesn't even speak. What kind of a personality is that?
That's brilliant.
Well, neither of them speak, but the other one just goes, and that's it. One of them's a mute, and one of them can't do any syllables. So, Sooty and Sweep. Anyway, comments. We have Sean697 says, kind of like we did, that come on boy wore on me very quickly, which I agree with. We've got sort here. Interesting review. Personally, I always had issues with the game that weren't generation appropriate, no matter how slick they were. He's kind of saying how every console generation starts off like, I want to experience what this console can do. This is a single screen puzzle game on my new flashy 16-bit Genesis. Why is it not doing the parallax scrolling? Which we kind of agree with. Brett Brown here says, I've always been curious about why Sega decided this game needed a Mega Drive port, Genesis port. Many of the other ports of non-Sega games that they did, like Capcom arcade games, made perfect sense, but this was a pretty obscure Amiga game that was particularly visually impressive, even for that wasn't particularly visually impressive. No. So it sounds like Brett Brown knows the source of this game, so it was originally an Amiga game, so you were right, Dylan. Well done. And it's, I don't know, some of the the intros and stuff were quite impressive. I didn't think the presentation was actually that bad. I'd be interested to see how it compared to the Amiga, if it was buffed up a little bit.
I imagine, well, I shouldn't even pretend to know anything about the Amiga, but from what I understand, most of the Mega Drive games that either came from Amiga, or if it was an arcade game that got ported to the Mega Drive and also the Amiga version was lesser, but usually. So I imagine it did get a bit of a touch up, but at the same time, did the developers or the people who ported the game care enough to really take advantage of everything that Mega Drive had to offer?
Who knows?
Nah. No worries.
So let's take a look at Dead Angle. Master System, 1984. A shooting game. Like a shooting gallery style game for the Master System. Now, this game is trying to do too much for what it is. It's basically a shooting gallery game. Kind of interesting. It's given like a pseudo see-through view of your guy. And you can see when you get shot by seeing the entry wounds, I suppose, on your guy as you're navigating yourself around the streets. I kind of like the premise of the whole gangster, the what do we call it? The Scarface, the Godfather sort of thing that's going on. But the gameplay is awful. It is a slow, chuggy, horrible mess that doesn't really deserve a lot of time to talk about it.
So, for those who know about the Master System, most people that are Master System fans know about the light phaser, which is the gun. It's the zapper gun for the Master System. Okay, so there are, I don't know, half a dozen, maybe a few more than that, but not very many light phaser games. But in those games, basically every light phaser game, you play a first-person view. In other words, you don't actually see the character you control. You just shoot at whatever the game tells you to shoot at, right?
Yeah.
So in this game, which does not have light phaser support whatsoever,
that's crazy.
Which it should. You actually play like a floating ghost silhouette that can hover around the entire level and shoot the gangsters that pop up. So it feels like it should be a light phaser game, and it probably would work okay, but because it isn't, you control this guy, but the controls are so awkward and clunky because you're not Yeah, go ahead.
It runs at like 5 frames a second.
It does.
Which is the problem. I think I know technically what they're doing. Because the sprites of the gangsters and the guys are very large. And I think what they're doing is a trick that a lot of Master System games used to do, is that it would treat them as a background or a background tile and move them around. But there were certain limitations with background tiles, i.e. animation, and they couldn't do them. So what you have to do is you have to switch background tile from image to image rather than a true animation that you would use, and you could only do that at a certain frame rate, and that is what's going on here, I believe. And
yes.
The results are awful.
Yeah, it's bad. Besides like you said, the five frames per second, you control your silhouette ghost character
Ghostman.
at along with the crosshair
Yeah.
used to shoot. So you control them both at the same time. There's no way you can, that I could figure out, that you can move the crosshair away from your silhouetted dude. Like, you have to control them both at the same time.
Yeah, and you do have to like search around an arena. It's not like many shooting gallery games where you get a screen. You do have to move left to right and it'll scroll up and down and things like that. I like that. Again, that the scrolling is also like a 5 frames a second job, and it's just I couldn't figure out really how to like avoid shots either, because you've got one button like kind of semi ducks, but it doesn't even do anything.
Right.
Yeah, not cool.
No, this is the slowdown up here. Is I said in the review, it's up there with Space Harrier 3D, which, if anybody knows anything about that, that game's basically unplayable. So that's how bad it is, and it's unfortunate in a way, but also if you want to play a better gangster shooting game, you can check out Gangster Town, which is a light phaser game, and it is considerably better than this.
Right. Okay. Right, well, I think that's enough for Dead Angle.
Yeah.
Crap name
Agreed.
as well. I can't even say it. So, let's check out the comments for Dead Angle. We have Rev here. I wanted to post and let you know that I love your site, so I check it out every day to see what you're reviewing next. As for this game, it seems really similar to the SNES game Wild Guns. You got anything, any memories of Wild Guns, Dylan? I haven't.
I believe it's officially on the Switch.
No.
I believe so. I was going to say it's either Wild Guns or Sunset Riders, but I think it's not Sunset Riders. I think it's Wild Guns is on there.
Wow.
I believe so. And it is. It's Wild Guns is hard, but it is a lot better. It's a lot better than Dead Angle. Yeah.
Oh, man. We've got Tony Wilkins here. Tony Wilkins. I can see why programmers may have thought the silhouette idea was a good one. There is a certain sense of logic with it. There is. When playing other crosshair shooters, such as the non-phaser version of Assault City, which is pretty good and actually holds a distinction for being the first game I completed on the Master System, whenever a enemy fires at the screen, because you haven't dispatched them quickly enough, you take a hit. That's true. I think that's where, like, you can't, because of the rate the game wants to update itself, it's so difficult to clear a screen before somebody gets a shot off at you. It's just poor execution, as Tony says.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Daytime Renegade, a shooter like this where you can't use a gun peripheral is like a racing game that doesn't allow you to play using a driving peripheral. I don't know about that. I think racing games are more controller friendly. Anyway, shooting games, I don't really see the point without a gun. I like a shooting gallery game.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like a time. I remember having time. I had Time Crisis on the PlayStation for about a year and a half before I got a G-Con.
Oh.
And I could beat it without a G-Con.
Wow.
It was like, the timing was nuts because you couldn't speed up the crosshair.
I imagine it was challenging. Yeah.
It was challenging. And Johnny Scott, this game looks very nice for a Master System game. Unfortunately, the arcade's Big Brother was so far ahead of this game, I find it plays much better. So, There you go. Arcade rules again.
Yep.
Yeah, it does. Right. Next game. I'm going to get quackers with this one because it's damn Mad Ducks. Master System 1990. Quack back on lock. I like that. That's nice.
Thank you.
This is a weird one. It's like Streets of Rage meets Contra meets a Saturday morning cartoon.
Right. It's weird, and I don't know if you noticed this.
Okay.
But I kind of make it the theme for my entire review, which is that you don't actually have to hurt anyone except for the bosses.
No, you do not. That's how I played it.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
After a while, and I realised that you could just jump over anything.
Yeah.
And just carry on moving to the right. There isn't much challenge in this game apart from the bosses.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a shame because I didn't think the feel was that bad.
No, it's not. And the graphics are really nice.
Very nice, yes.
Very colorful. The character designs are hilarious.
It's
very
bizarre. It's got to be a European game. It's got to be.
Well, Sega made it. So I don't know if Sega made it like in Japan because it only came out in Europe. So it wasn't.
And I will tell you as a fact, because I was there, this was a very popular game.
Is that right?
And I would say more than half of people that had a Master System would have had this game.
Wow, that's interesting. I guess I'm trying to think of the right question to ask.
Okay.
I mean, why originally?
Why?
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I just think it was. It must have been in some like compilations, like when you buy a Master System, you get a copy of Sonic, you get a copy of this, and you get. But also on top of that, I think it was kind of everything people wanted from the time. It was a colourful, obviously trying to be a mascot type platformer.
Yeah.
With a bit of violence thrown in on the top, which was, I mean, it's
perfect for the almost preteen boy, right?
Yeah, in 1990. Yeah,
right.
I mean, it's not got much of an edge to it. It is very cutesified, very simplified. It's really maxing out the Master System. There are lots of moving sprites on screen with, I'd say, limited flicker. For the Master System. Some of the bosses are very extreme with rotating shields and things like that. It really gets its rotation on, does this game. But it's very basic, like
very basic.
Uncomfortably basic. That's the big note I have about this game is basic. Which is annoying because it's got some interesting. You're bopping along for like 2 or 3 minutes, and you're jumping over people, and you have a default attack, which is you can punch enemies.
Oh, but it's so awkward.
It's awkward. So you have to wind it up, and the range is terrible. And then you all of a sudden pick up a bazooka, and it's like, see you later, fox. See you later, dog. And it's like so overpowered. You've gone from, I can't hit you without you hitting me because I can't hit 2 pixels in front of me, to you feel like Schwarzenegger. It's and you're not beating a boss without a weapon.
No.
Not a chance. No. I don't know. I mean, let's see what you gave this, because I haven't actually had a look. You gave it a C-, and I would agree. That's a very fair score. C-. It was basic is the best way.
There's no way that they'd have to edit this game today, because you can pick up a sniper rifle, man.
Yep.
And like go to town. It's so.
And you're a duck.
And you're a duck of its time. So you learn things every day, and I've relearned things from reviews I've written. So apparently this was an arcade title.
Yeah.
Developed by Sega AM2, and it was only released in Japan and Europe. never got released here. I don't know why, because maybe they just thought Americans had too many goofy mascot platformers. I don't know, but
Don't know.
Seems like it would have made a small splash here.
I think it would have been successful, just because of the way it looks. If you saw this in a magazine, I could see be very tempted. Back in 1990, it's like, I mean, it's a colourful duck with a bazooka, and he's walking through downtown, and he's facing off against like sumo pigs and dogs in high heels. You know, I mean, what more do you want from 1990? It's kind of everything you wanted until you pick it up and you go, ugh.
Right. Yeah.
Then it's not. C-. I agree. What have we got here from the replies? We've got Brett Brown. I've never played the Master System version, but I played the arcade. Here we go. Right. Oh, buy an emulator. We don't do the pirate thing here, do we, Dylan? That's one thing we've never done.
Okay.
And I've got to say, you nailed this one. Interesting looking, but dull to play. If you actually knew of a video store that carried Master System games, I guess it would have been worth a rental. I don't know. Literally, in the first level, you see everything this game's got to give. He just kind of repeats it and changes a few colours, if I'm honest. Kurt says, with a cover like that, I think you know what you're getting into. At least I'd hope so. Yeah, the box art is, again, not representative of the game and is weird.
Leaves a lot to be desired. Yeah. Doesn't properly represent the game. There is a duck on the cover, so they got that right.
There is a duck, but he's the wrong colour.
He's the wrong color. It's so
crazy.
funny. It's so funny, like, looking back at all this, you know, even NES games. And it's like, there was such a, like, let's just do whatever. Like, there was no quality control, really. It was just like, this is for kids. They don't care. You know, that was kind of the idea. So, yeah.
There was also a weird, like, Colonel Sanders kind of thing going on. Did you notice
he popped
that?
up a couple times.
Why?
For some reason.
In front of a store with, like, white and red stripes.
Japan liked to do that stuff, didn't they? They like Americana. I mean, just look at Revenge of Shinobi, right? Yeah. All the bosses are, like, American icons, you know, of the time.
Yeah.
You know, Stallone, Batman, Schwarzenegger, Spider-Man, I think, is in there also. I don't know how they got away with it. Probably because nobody from KFC played this, is my guess. But
well, no.
Yeah, why he's there, I couldn't tell you.
It's just, and it's not like, oh, it might be him. No, it's him.
No, yeah.
For sure. We've got Rom at the bottom here, says, I love it, but yes, it's incredibly shallow. I just think it's such a feel-good little game. Okay, I play it once every few years and have no regrets, except that I wish it was as pretty as the arcade version, which also came to Australia. Interesting. Not many talks of Australia so far on the Sega does, but here we go.
May it be.
Right. This next game is going to be all you, dude, because I couldn't play this game, and I probably can't say it either. It is Sorcerian on the Megatron.
Okay, I think it's Sorcerian.
Right.
Because Sorcerian, that sounds like a bad procedure that you don't want to have.
Yeah,
I got a sorcerer
on that. No,
yeah, no. So I think for those who are in the know and have been gaming a long time, I think just saying this is a Falcom RPG.
There you go. Good.
And Falcom doesn't play by... They play by their own rules. They make up rules. Also, of note to say is that this is when RPGs were in their infancy, and so there really weren't a lot of just JRPGs specifically. Dragon Quest had come out, Final Fantasy had come out, Phantasy Star had come out, but there still wasn't, and those were all turn-based.
Yeah.
But this was more of an action RPG, and it is both very dense and very basic, to reuse the word that you used for Dynamite Ducks.
Yeah.
It's, if you want to, you can beef up your characters. You can you can have 10 different characters for your party.
That's quite amazing.
There's only 4 classes, but there are 60 jobs that you can choose from.
It has a job system.
It has a job system.
Wow.
And the jobs, like the titles, I put in the review, florist. You could be a florist. A midwife, a stuffed toy maker.
What?
It's like, so if you really want to go,
wow,
hog wild with the character building, you can do that. And half the game is just menus. It's basically in the menu system, you're building party members, you're training in different skills, you're customizing your magic, and then the other half of the game are these 10 quests, which are kind of an action format, side-scrolling action format.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
It's different, that was. It was
very different.
It's kind of like, for people who can't see it, again, go to SegaDoes.com so you can check it out. It's kind of like a Zelda 2 sort of thing.
But
as an RPG. It's relatively pretty, actually. I like the colour use and the animations are pretty good. That side of thing was interesting. But like you say, half the time you've got your head in a menu or a screen that's just pure text, and you don't stand a chance.
Right. So the action side-scrolling part is, I don't want to say it's very straightforward, but there's not much going on outside of you killing bad guys, looking for specific items, exploring, and that's about it. There's nothing. Right. That's it. So
that's it.
So I would say the bulk of the game really is in the menus. Yeah.
Okay.
And
that's not cool.
So if you like that, then there you go.
That's not what I bought Mega Drive for.
Yeah, and this again, it's a Mega Drive game. It's only in Japan.
Yep.
And it's only partially translated into English. So
even they got halfway through and was like, nah.
Yeah, like, I'm good. I didn't hate this, but I kind of just thought it was there. Like, perhaps if it had been fully translated, I might have tried a little harder.
If this had been like 2-3 years later and the RPG, like, for some reason between like 93 and 95, Japanese developers were really trying to push RPGs in the West. If this had been then, with a good translation, I could see a little bit of a following for this. I really could. I could see it, especially with all those jobs and things. You could imagine the nerds of the day thinking, "Oh, well, if I have a florist and a plumber, and he goes with with the construction worker and the and the nurse, then that it breaks the game, and you can get double this." And I can see it,
right? Yep.
But unfortunately, you can't really get that far into it because, as you said, it was Japan only, and the translation is not complete. So, so you gave it a C.
There is a fully English translation came out. I guess it came out in the States for IBM PCs back in the day. So if you really want to find it, and for all I know, Falcom has since translated and re-released it for modern consoles. I haven't checked.
No, I haven't checked.
But yeah, for the Mega Drive, it's just, it is what it is at the moment. And I'm with you. I think they're kind of like Final Fantasy V with its job system has like this really cult following. I could see this game kind of similarly.
Well, maybe again, that's what I mean. Final Fantasy V didn't come here because famously back then Square thought most of their games were too difficult, especially Final Fantasy V, for Western audiences, with all the different combinations. And maybe this was a similar sort of thing. It's like, oh no, stupid Westerners cannot play this game. Too much text. And it was like, no, not happening. It's funny you mentioned the PC version. In the comments here, we have Retro Revelations. Said, I had this for DOS on my old 386. Oh, I had a 386. And I had a 486 with a boost button. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. I used to play Star Trek on it. It was great.
Nice.
Good game. Even though the PC version didn't seem to have a definitive ending. I could see that. I could probably see there being so many different combinations of doing things, it was hard to actually find the ending.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure. There's 10 quests, so, my brain is like, well, once you beat all the quests, you'd find the ending, right? But probably not.
Yeah, it's not like an Octopath sort of thing where you got to beat all of them and then the true ending appears. I don't know. Right. So, going from a game then that has very limited gameplay to a game that is all gameplay, and I'm up for it. And that is some Super Real Basketball. Yeah. Or, if you're in the United States of the Americas, Pat Riley's Super Real Basketball. Now, was Pat Riley a coach or a player? Enlighten me.
Definitely a coach.
Uh-huh. Oh, there he
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Definitely
did he ever
coach.
play?
I don't know. He looks like he could, though, right?
Pretty tall.
I mean, like, he looks like it. He is a former player. Yes, he is. In the NBA. But I guess it was a while. And now now it's been a while. And he's been the team president of the Miami Heat since 1995. Okay.
I seem to remember his name being shouted around a lot when LeBron went there. And he seemed to be the guy that got him there. When I used to follow basketball.
Gotcha.
So I think he had a lot to do with it. So anyway, Super Real Basketball for the rest of the world. This game's pretty good. And this is kind of like the first real, I would say, notch on the, okay, Mega Drive is going to do sports games better than anybody else for the next 5 years. Here we go. Boom.
Yeah.
This is really impressive. Now, one of the things you do highlight in your review, which I have read, is that compared to the sports games on the SG and the Master System so far, this is like, where did this come from?
Right.
And that's very true. So how do we feel then, Dylan, playing this surprisingly awesome basketball game for its time?
Well, it kind of felt like, oh, this is what Sega's been going for the whole time.
Yeah.
But they didn't have the horsepower, in their previous consoles, so they had to make do. But with the Genesis or the Mega Drive, they really, I mean, there's not a lot to it. It is very basic in a sense, but it's also pick up and play arcade basketball. I think there might have been maybe Arch Rivals was around this time,
Right.
Which is more, like a precursor to NBA Jam in terms of like how goofy it was.
Yeah.
But this is like, I mean, if they would have gotten, real players and real team names,
Yeah, it was a bit
this
just
could have
slightly before that era, wasn't it?
right. Yeah. So, if they would have done that, this would have been. I mean, it probably was huge for the time, but it's really good. It holds up. I mean, it's not. You're not gonna, probably play this over NBA Jam, but to say that it's a bad game or that it doesn't achieve what it sets out to do, I
would even go
wrong.
as far to say that, knowing the timeline of having happened, obviously now, I don't think if this game hadn't happened, I don't think NBA Jam would have. I think there are so many things this took from it.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you a question, because we didn't really have it, because basketball, especially in the 90s, wasn't that popular in my country. But in terms of the pantheon of arcade games, around this time, what do we have? We didn't really have fighting games yet. We were still on the puzzle and probably the side scroller. beat 'em ups
Right.
were getting big at this time.
Shoot 'em ups were there.
Shoot 'em
Yeah.
ups were there. So, sports games in arcades, were they a big thing?
So I don't want to say they weren't. I know. I think Atari. Well, there was 10-Yard Fight, which is a football game. That was an arcade game. I'm sure there were others, but late 80s, early 90s. I don't recall. I also, to be fair, did not pay attention to sports games when I was a child, so I would not have known. However, NBA Jam was so big, you couldn't ignore it.
Oh no,
and
we
same
even
with,
had that here. It was that,
Right.
was that big, yeah.
And same with like NFL Blitz, which I know was later, but
Yeah, we had that too. That was good.
I don't know how common sports games were in the arcade, and this, I don't. I mean, I think it would have done well,
Yeah.
in the arcade. Arcades were at a weird time too around this time, late 80s, early 90s.
They were technically, I mean, I've always thought this, but they were technically dying again until Street
were,
Fighter
yes,
came along.
correct.
And it was like, okay,
Yeah.
let's do this again for another 4 or 5 years, guys. And Mortal Kombat
Right.
came along and even projected it even more. And then you got another revival when Sega started coming out with their 3D Model 1 stuff, Sega Rally, Virtua Fighter, and then you got the Daytonas of the world and things like that, and it kept going. The arcades really kept going to like 98, 99, and then as soon as hardware at home started overtaking arcade hardware, it was
It was done.
Yeah, it was done really. But so why is this called Super Real Basketball? Well, one of the things this does, and it was quite funny. I've got a funny story in a second too. It has certain conditions where it will go to like a super detailed view of players and the actions they are doing, kind of like a cutscene, but there is like best way to describe them, like bars where you have to press your button at the right time to stop the dot in the right place for the action to be completed. So if you're going for a slam dunk, it will change the camera angle to like a cinematic view, and if you press the button at the right time, you get the slam dunk and certain shots, and also you have meters for blocking in these cutscenes and things like that. But if you are playing these games like I am on original hardware with an open source scan converter, I think the Mega Drive or Genesis is doing some weird like video switching mode when it goes into these cutscenes, because it wasn't very smooth for me, because whenever it went into these cutscenes it would cut to black for about half a second to a second while my scan converter was trying to catch up with whatever video mode the Mega Drive was in, and then it'd cut to like in halfway through a dunk and the meter was all the way to one side because I had no idea when to press the button and I'd always miss it. So
man.
I had to play this game purely by doing like 2-point, 3-point shots, and I would hopefully it wasn't in an area where it would trigger the cutscene to appear.
Yeah,
but when they did look beautiful.
very nice.
So that was
yeah.
I was like, I can't blame the game for this, because this is me and my modern, getting this on my modern telly,
Right.
kind of thing. So yeah, it was kind of funny, but I really, I really enjoyed the game, and I liked that. Even though I couldn't really use it to its full potential, I liked the cutscene thing. I thought that was really interesting. It reminded me of
It was cool.
Some wrestling games did that when they started getting into 3D. They'd like cut to a certain angle, and especially the N64 ones would do a similar sort of thing. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, no, this is far and away the best basketball game that I've played thus far.
yes,
I mean,
thus
it's
far.
nothing even comes close.
No.
It is
No way.
It is, and I'm sure something will overtake it. But
Oh, I'm
right
sure.
now, this is quite the enjoyable experience.
That's
yeah.
right. So we gave it a B+.
Yes.
And we have some comments here. So Sean697, good old Sean, he says, I picked up this when it came out. I spent the summer having fun with it. It's a very arcade playing style, and the game came with a lot of flash. It was very flashy. You would not be disappointed if you bought this with your Genesis, for sure. It was typically early Genesis, cutting away from a large digitized screen of players performing dunks. That's what we just discussed. Basic controls, but it did play well. And in 2-player, I did play in 2-player as well. No slowdown or anything like that. Still ran at the same rate. It was very good. he goes on about the licensing and things like that. Like we said before, we're just on the edge of, right, we're going to start getting some real money into this sort of thing. I personally don't think if Sega hadn't have come along, it would have been a lot longer until we got fully licensed sports games. Because sports games were really the first thing that got like proper licenses and things. You got your Mike Tyson's Punch Out, and certain personalities in certain sports would lend their name to things, but you didn't get like a PGA this or an NFL that and things like that. And we're just on the cusp of that, which means games were starting to make some proper money.
That is very true. Very true.
And Tony Wilkins here again says, "Good Lord, that Genesis cover is uninspired." Yeah, the cover art for this game is so different compared to where you bought it. So in my land, you got this really cool, like multi-person dunking the basketball sort of thing. Nice, like sprayed artwork. Same in the land of Japan with a slightly different font. It's okay, but because obviously they spent the license money on Pat Riley in the Americas for the Genesis, we got a hands-on-the-hip picture of Pat Riley with his lovely 90s slick-back bad guy hair, with what I'm assuming is maybe a championship ring on his finger, and probably a very expensive watch. And there is no basketball players. There's not even a basketball. Well, there is kind of very blurred out in the background. But it's. I would love to know how much money Sega spent to have that one terrible picture. He's not even smiling. You know, he's not holding a copy of the game and going, "Arr." He's just, he's probably looking at a nice girl in the first row or something. If I'm honest, thinking, that's probably what he's doing.
His look to me is kind of like a, what are you doing? Like, to his players. That's what it looks like to me.
He's thinking how to spend his money he's got for this game.
Well, yeah.
Like 2 boats or 3?
Which shall he choose? Yeah, no,
Free.
this was great. I enjoyed it, and it's, again, I think people don't understand when you're playing these games in chronological order, like anything that's better than the game that came before it, and especially when it's like leagues better, doesn't matter. It doesn't matter that they would improve upon it in '94. Of course they would. Like, I'm expecting that, but no, compared to great basketball, which I think that's actually a Master System game. No, not good. Not good. Don't want to play it ever again.
No.
They're bad. So this is a huge improvement, just like Arnold Palmer Tournament Golf.
Yeah.
Is a great improvement over any golf game that had come before. So
yes.
Excellent.
All
right, what's your take on this? Your favorite game here, buddy?
This is my new obsession. This is amazing sauce, is what this is. This is the New Zealand story.
Ooh.
Okay, so Flight of the Kiwis, best tagline so far. Well done. Right, so New Zealand story, 1990 for the Mega Drive and 92 for the Master System, which we will talk about in a minute. So what is the New Zealand story? Well, apart from being one of the most amazing things I've ever laid eyes on, it is a very Japanese, how do we describe this? Kind of a action puzzle platformer. What do you think about
that? That's fair. Yeah,
because it's not a straight platformer, and it's not a straight puzzle game.
No,
and it's not a complete action game. It's you play a kiwi.
Yeah, a kiwi, a bird. For those, it's not the fruit. Yeah. You play a bird. Yeah, just making sure.
Yes, you play a bird.
And
yeah, carry on.
Yeah, well, you're the last Kiwi in New Zealand.
Oh,
like,
is that
seal?
Is that right? Okay, right.
Well, I don't know. I'm making that up, but this seal comes into your zoo, breaks in,
Yep.
captures all the kiwis,
For some
presumably
reason.
to eat them.
Well, you assume so. You know.
I would imagine.
Yeah.
But Tiki, which is the main character, he escapes.
Nice.
And now he has to go through these elaborately designed levels to rescue his fellow kiwis.
That's right.
Including his girlfriend.
I like to think that the levels were like different pens in the zoo.
Yeah, I think that's what they were going for.
I think it is. Now, obviously, they're not. They don't really look like that, but they do have different animals on certain levels, and you do go underwater. And Tiki with a snorkel is the most adorable thing.
I do have a screenshot of that. So
do?
if you
I'm
go to
looking at it now.
if you go to SegaDoes.com, type in the New Zealand story, you can see it. It's amazing. Yeah.
One of the reasons I like this game is there are so many gameplay elements to it. And it's usually when people do that, they get on top of each other and there's too much going on. But that doesn't happen with this game. You can... I'll try and lay them all out. You can jump. Okay, there's one.
Right.
You can shoot a bow and arrow. Why?
Yep. And a laser.
And a laser, yes. So you have a projectile-based attack. You can jump on things, certain things like balloons or various platforms that you learn have these abilities, and you can hover with them.
Yep.
You can jump on platforms. Now, what I liked about it, you think, oh wow, jump on platforms will be. But what this game kind of does is there are certain platforms that you learn have got like a certain outline that you can jump through. Mm-hmm. Which is very important for positioning and taking on certain enemies, which is very cool. You can swim, again, which is one of the most adorable things ever. And it's just an amazingly built system. You know, it's very Mega Man-esque is what I kept thinking. There are certain limitations to what he can do, and they build the levels around his moveset. And it's a very well implemented design document.
Yeah, the levels they start off kind of, I don't know, just very simple, and then they just get crazy.
Yeah.
The intricacies between, with which they built, and there's multiple pathways. Thankfully, there is no time limit.
Yes, that would have been destroy bad. It. That would destroy the game if there was a time.
Yeah, but you have to be careful. You're a kiwi, which you would think means you could fly, but you can't fly.
No.
You have to steal different kinds of balloons from the enemies, and then from there you can ride around throughout the level. But sometimes the game or the levels, specific levels, very much want you to go on foot.
Yes.
And as a result, you have to be very careful. It's very precise platform jumping, and because there's spikes all over the place, and some of the platforms are like so tiny.
But you do have the control to take them on. It's a very well balanced control system.
Yeah, it very much so. It is incredibly colorful and deceptively cute because it's very hard.
Yes, it's
the
very
game.
hard.
So the game was actually released for the NES as Kiwi Craze. So I played it when I was doing Questicle back in the day.
Okay.
And I liked it then. This specific version only released in Japan, and it is actually based on the prototype arcade board rather than the official arcade version. As a result, it's harder, and it only contains a little over half of the levels that appeared in the arcade. 13 levels as opposed to 20.
That's so interesting.
I want to thank Hardcore Gaming 101 for that info. The Mega Drive port stayed in Japan, possibly because people thought it was too hard. I don't know. Did you think it was hard? I thought it was tough.
I thought the difficulty ramp was too steep. Level
I
1,
agree.
fine. Level 2, fine. Level 3, forget it. It was literally like that. I mean, I struggled through it because the damn thing was so cute. But I just love it. The sound design is all on point. All the sounds sound like they're all made from the same factory, if you know what I mean. It's the design, it's everything in it fits. You know, it's like when you play a Mario game. It's like, oh yeah, this all fits. And the bosses were really cool.
Yeah, the ones I got to, the bosses I got to were cool. It's surreal, but not in a disturbing way. It's just like, it's very, kind of immerses you in this bizarre alternate reality. But again, in a good way, in a way that, you know, is like, oh, this is pleasant. I enjoy this, even as you're getting your butt handed to you. Yeah. So it's just an incredible thing. Now, another incredible thing is the Master System version, because it isn't bad. No, it's not. It's. I mean, if you squinted and maybe had a beer or two, it does kind of look like the Mega Drive version. It does. There's not a great amount of difference. It is a bit darker, and from what I understand, this one is based on the arcade version. Wow. So I think it might be a little easier, but I found it easier. But I thought it runs slower. It's not as smooth. It does run slower. And I thought maybe that was what was helping me. Well, and a lot of Master System ports of Mega Drive games would definitely get Golden Axe, Strider. They definitely reduce the amount of enemies. Ghosts and Goblins. Yeah. Or Ghouls and Ghosts. Ghouls and Ghosts. That one, the Master System version, it has so few enemies. It's ridiculous. It's terrible. Yeah. So. Yeah, but this is a really impressive. I don't think I've ever seen a Master System game actually played and looked this good. I think it's up there. It is. It's really. I mean, what is this? 92? Yeah. 92, early 90s Master System games. Not all of them, but a lot of them were really pushing the hardware. It reminds me of some of the Donald. I think there was a Donald Duck game as well. A late Master System game, which a lot of people seem to have in the UK as well. Just amazing stuff. So for the Mega Drive version, you gave it a B. Okay. I thought that you could be a bit higher than a B. What was your problem with it? It's difficult. I mean, it's kind of like what you said. It ramps up in difficulty. It is hard. Like really fast. And yeah, if you bought it, of course you're going to see this thing through as to the end as much as you can. I actually gave the NES version called Kiwi Craze. I gave that one an A-, and I don't know. And if you were to ask me why, I don't know, because that was like 11 years ago. Can you remember how that one ran? Well, it ran well. Yeah. Right. Okay. It was not bad. I think the companies who ported these games did a good job in general. Yes. So Taito handled the port of the Mega Drive one, but then Tech Magic handled the Master System version. Yes, it did. And I'm not sure who did the NES version, but they all have their pros and cons, I guess. So I was really, really impressed with Master System. I think one of the things that made me love it so much is it was the graphics on it are so clean that it looked amazing on a 4K telly. I'd never seen my scan converter doing such a good job ever. It was insane. It was so yellow. It was nuts. And I was like, the way you beat levels is you have to save a Kiwi, obviously, because the walrus must have like dropped them off accidentally on his way out to make dinner. Not very smart. No, so you have to save a Kiwi, and every time you save a Kiwi, it's so adorable because they will fly off, and you fly off with them, and it's like, I need to go save the next one now. It's just, and it never got a sequel, I don't think. I don't think it was. Strangely, despite all the ports, I don't think it was ever that popular.
I could just see the Japanese latching onto him as a character, and there is there is a name for it. I can't remember what it is, but there's a Japanese term for a character, like game characters that become like part of the zeitgeist of the time, sort of thing. Like Parappa, in Japan, became an iconic character for that time rather than a gaming character. He became part of the story of the 90s almost in Japan. I'm amazed this little dude didn't like do that a little bit, but obviously not.
Well, there was a Nintendo DS remake.
What?
Called New Zealand Story Revolution.
Oh.
So we might need to check that out and see if it holds up. I have a feeling
it doesn't.
It did not.
Please tell me it's not in 3D.
I don't know. Well, it's DS, so... Ooh, the cover looks bad. I'm sorry. The Kiwi doesn't look that cute.
I'm not going to look.
I'm
not going to ruin.
I'm
not going to ruin it. I'm not going to ruin it.
If that's how he looks in the game, that'll be a pass for me. Thanks.
Okay, right. I'm not going to spoil it for myself. So we're done.
There you go.
Okay, right. So let's get down here. Lots of comments. Here we go. Sean again. I have a soft spot for this game. And Sean, so do I. I love the arcade version. It just has such cute enemies and characters, but it requires skill and is not really a kids game. No, it's not really a kids game. I'm just remembering now, walking around Belazer. Belazer was amazing. I had always hoped the console version would come out. I would have brought the Master System port or the Genesis one. This game was more contemporary to arcades during the Master System time, so this port makes sense. Yeah, I'm really surprised. I mean, I can't believe that Zoom came out over here and this didn't. Well, in the States, and this didn't. It's kind of crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
It's weird. Yeah, I agree.
It is really weird. What's GH? You're spot on, Dylan. New Zealand Story is compelling but ridiculously hard. The Master System version in particular sounds sadistic. 3 lives to beat 20 levels. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. We will say it's a one-shot kill game.
Yeah, one shot, you're done.
You're done.
And
there's lots of spikes.
There's lots of spikes. The enemies can kind of just teleport.
Yeah.
Anywhere.
Right, this comment is going to make me Google stuff all night. Sut here has said, I remember playing this on the ZX Spectrum and enjoying it brutally. Oh my goodness, I'm going down a rabbit hole tonight. Wow. B. Pete says, good review, Dylan. Thank you. Stephen Irwin, whoa, that's a comment. I'm going to read the first few lines. A great review, as ever, Dylan. If anyone out there has beaten this without using cheats, then hats off to you because this game is brutal. I agree, Stephen. Nice long comment. We will say, as we are now back doing a podcast again, we had a little bit of time off, just a little bit.
Just a little bit.
But we did promise we would see this through to the end, and we haven't broken that promise. So there will be posts for all episodes of the podcast, so please leave comments in there. As you can tell, we are reading comments from reviews that are slightly in the past, so if you'd like to leave new comments, they will also get read out. So please do that. So visit SegaDoes.com, follow along with us on this journey, and anything to say about this, Dylan? Are we all done for today?
I think so, but I'm finding out more stuff as we're going, and apparently the arcade version of New Zealand Story is available on the PS4 and the Switch.
Are you kidding?
No.
Wow.
So there's your evening sorted. Yep, friend. Yeah.
I don't have a ZX Spectrum anymore, but I'm sure it's emulatable.
It is. Not that I would know, but
no,
yeah,
we don't do that kind of thing.
No, I'm excited. I'm excited to do this again. I'm excited to go through these games, and it's crazy that, like you said, we've been gone for a minute, but
a little bit.
We're still here, and we look forward to
still
interacting with friends.
Yeah,
with friends again.
I hope so. I wonder if there's a way we can get a message out to all the old commenters. I need to have a word with you after the show about that. See if there's a way we can say, "Hey guys, we're back."
Yeah, we'll figure it out. And in the meantime, SegaDoes.com. You can follow me on Twitter for the moment. Who knows if I will stay there? But right now my handle is at RetroGamingArc, ARC. Or you could just search Dylan Cornelius, and you probably find me. That's it.
That's it. You can't find me anywhere because I'm an adult now. Yay!
Yeah.
You want to get in contact with me, you leave comments on SegaDoes.com and I will respond, I promise. So, until next time, Dylan, Sega.
Sega!